Hey everyone, my name is Charlie and welcome back to a brand new Doctor Who YouTube video. So, yay, I actually managed to record a video and it didn't take me 4 weeks. So yes, I'm in a much more of a consistent video schedule now. I know it's obviously not Saturday like Chapter 1 of Beginning of Time was, but hey, it's still the weekend, it's Sunday. So yeah, Beginning of Time, Chapter 2. So previously we had the Doctor and Turlough visiting they crash landed on a mysterious alien planet that seems to be really nice, and then the Doctor starts acting funny. And then they end up in a cavern, and the Doctor goes even more crazy and ends up jumping into a pool. And Turlough essentially is about to jump in and saying, like, this isn't a suicide mission at all, and then he jumps in. So that is what happened in the previous chapter. So yes, please do leave a comment below as to what you think of this chapter. I really do appreciate it. And here is the Beginning of Time, Chapter 2. I hope you enjoy. The Beginning of Time, Chapter 2, by Charlie Buckley. The liquid the Doctor had found himself in was viscous and suffocating, to say the least. His eyes stung and burned, and there was a likely chance that he'd end up blind. From his remaining vision, the Doctor could make out nothing but the same shade of turquoise, an endless oblivion of, well, whatever this was. The Doctor recalled a strange forest, before blacking out. The rest was a bit fuzzy, but he could recall a vague memory of anger at Turlough. Then he remembered plunging underwater, and probably had been so for around 1 minute. However much the Doctor pushed at the water, he continued to sink, his movements sluggish and wearing his arms out. How far down does this water go? The Doctor thought to himself, hearts beating slightly faster, possibly miles. Even with my enhanced lungs I could probably only survive for an hour, but Turlough can't, and he's probably just jumped in to rescue me. The Doctor, panicking all the while, frantically pushed the water, scooping armfuls of the fluid below himself. Physics, however, disobeyed, and he sank further. A sudden grinding sound pierced through the water, sending vibrations throughout the pool. The twisting, whirring, humming sound of machinery, which the Doctor was all too familiar with. He stopped moving. Statue-like, the Doctor remained completely solitary, floating in a void. Then the water opened up. Below him, a parting revealed in the water, creating a pathway leading to what seemed like some sort of pavement. The fluid built up around the sides to form a circular hole leading to the walkway, yet the Doctor still managed to hover within, straining his muscles desperately, wheezing and panting in a fruitless attempt to explore what lay below. A familiar voice monotonously sounded from above him. "Doctor, are you back to normal?" Turlough questioned, the apprehension in his voice only amplified by the long pauses he took. Turlough hovered above the Doctor in the circular gap, about 2 meters above. His ginger hair was plastered to his face, on which resided an expression of caution, and to some extent, panic. "What are you talking about, Turlough? Why do you seem frightened of me?" "Because you were all weird and... Were you drunk, Doctor?" "Of course not, Turlough." The Doctor chuckled warmly, looking up at Turlough. He looked down at him with a frown. "Well, you were definitely acting a bit strange, to say the least. You were talking about the 8 legs and the Rani and what, Turlough? And how many beans make 5? I told you, it was completely nonsensical. Anyway, you got angry at me, so you jumped in that weird pool and I followed. And here we are. Do you know what's going on?" "Haven't the foggiest, Turlough. I stopped falling and the ground just sort of opened up and we're hovering above a walkway thing." "How do we get out?" "Haven't a clue." "Ah!" The Doctor's response was cut off as he and Turlough plummeted to the walkway, and both hit the ground with sickening thuds that resounded from stone walls. Groaning, the pair stood, wincing in pain. They widened their eyes at what was before them. A megacity stood before them, miles each way, gargantuan stone-like structures towering for miles upwards. Blue lights shimmered before them from the thousands of windows, and small car-like contraptions flew before them in an organised fashion, greyish smog pumping from them as they continued. The Doctor and Turlough appeared to be in a vast network of interconnected tunnels circling the central city. The stone walls were of a nondescript grey, and the floor was comprised of a rusting metallic floor, which creaked and clanged as their weight shifted. Above and below the city were sprawling messes of jagged blue minerals, which caught light from windows and refracted dazzling white across the city, making it appear brighter than the metropolis was. A chorus of clinks ricocheted throughout the city as sweaty workers mined minerals with axes from afar. "Well, not so lifeless now, eh?" mused Turlough. "Agreed," someone shouted. They weren't the Doctor. Turlough and the Doctor craned their heads to the left in unison to see a woman strolling lazily toward them. She had blood-red hair, which small licks of flame danced off slightly. A close-fit uniform adorned her figure, a sleek black outfit which was lined with silver seams. A bemused expression lined her sarcastic face, and in yellow-skinned hands she held twin flames, each one blazing fiercely. Condensation formed on the Doctor's face, which he swiftly wiped away with a handkerchief. "Put your hands in the air. And you," she gestured to the Doctor, "drop the sonic device in your leftmost inner pocket." The Doctor reached into his blazer and swiftly whipped his sonic screwdriver out, before releasing it and letting it drop to the ground with a clang. He raised his arms, his head held down. Turlough remained stationary, a glazed look over his eyes. "Do I need to repeat myself, or shall I just turn that stupid expression on your face into a charred mess?" Turlough raised his arms and also held his head, glancing to the Doctor. "Can I ask a question or 20? Pleaded the Doctor. "The only one asking the questions shall be me," replied the fire spirit coolly. "However, I shall tell you all you'd like to know because I'm nice like that." A sarcastic smile lined her face. "My name is Lithian. I'm a fire spirit. I'm 625 years old, and this is the city of Critios. We evacuated underground 100,000 years ago due to radiation, and thrive off this mineral to build our civilization. And you two," she pointed accusingly at them, one crimson eyebrow raised, "are coming with me." She turned on her heel, the ball of flame in her hand flickered out. The two reluctantly followed Lithian through a labyrinth of corridors, staircases and passageways, eventually circling around one-third of the city, in which not really much had changed. They seemed to have gotten closer, though. The buildings seemed clearer, and were all still made of dull stone and had an eerily blue colour scheme inside. "Can I ask another question?" the Doctor asked, eyes widened like a puppy's, evidently putting up a front to gain information. "No," Lithian replied. "You are not to say another word until you are locked in your cells for eternity. You can chat through the walls there." "That's not fair," Turlough replied. "It isn't even our fault we're here. Release us. In fact, I'd like to speak to your manager." The Doctor chuckled slightly, and Lithian glared at both of them, eyes a fiery red. Twin flames writhed around her arms. "I said," she hissed, "stop talking. By Decree 15 of the Coritian Law Enforcement Code, I'm not allowed to kill you, which is the only reason why I haven't turned you to lifeless cinders. But rules can be bent. Now, I know you may not like the system, but trespassers serve life sentences trial-free here. You will be escorted to your cell, silently," she glared at Turlough, "and you can rot there for eternity. Are we understood?" "Yes, Lithian," the pair replied in unison, lumps in their throats and litres of sweat on their brows. "Good," she smiled bittersweetly again, before entering the national prison of Critios. The walls, instead of the slate grey they appeared from the outside, were of a polished black marble. Intricate blue carvings of fantasy-style runes littered the floor, and 6 humanoid statues stood on a pedestal. 3 of them, coloured crimson, orange and jet black, battled another 3, who seemed to be losing. A golden plaque was displayed proudly upon the farthest wall, reading National Prison of Critios. Underneath was displayed a motto, so small that only the Doctor seemed to be able to read it. It read, Potestate, Virtus, Dominationis, Victorum. Latin? The Doctor thought to himself. Why is their motto in Latin, and what does it say? Think, Doctor. Why isn't the TARDIS translating this? Something's wrong here. His train of thought, however, was interrupted, as Lithian pushed him forward, and the trio continued to a reception-like desk. Minimalist style interrupted only by a silver statue of a man in crimson robes looking down upon a city. The man behind the desk was slim and had a fairly cheerful expression on his face, a welcome change from the glares and sighs with Lithian. His skin was of a pale blue, highlighted only by his uniform. His silvery and sleek name badge read Calter. "Morning, Lithian." Calter bowed his head as she approached him. "I see you brought us some more criminals. Trespassers, I presume?" "Yes, Calter. Found them in Sector 7, Section A, wandering around like idiots." "Well, I think that might be a bit harsh, Lithian." "Don't test my patience, Calter. I'm not exactly in a great mood." "You think?" Turlough muttered under his breath, causing the Doctor to stifle a laugh. Lithian hissed slightly as if she heard him. "Can you just register them as trespassers, Calter? Names are the Doctor and Vizsla Turlough." Lithian took 2 pairs of handcuffs from a nearby container and wrapped a pair around both the doctor and Turlough's hands. They were sleek and black, with small blue lights which the doctor guessed served a greater function than aesthetics. They were led further down several corridors and lifts, which descended them further into the depths of the prison. Any natural light from the minerals being mined was repressed, meaning only the unblinking white lights above them would likely be all they'd ever see. The trio stepped out and emerged in the negative 1963rd floor. The cells were made of a bluish shield, and criminals of all kinds pounded fists on them. Hatred and enragement sprawled across their faces. The end of the corridor, however, was where the doctor and Turlough's attention was fixed, for an iron door was placed at the end. It was jet black and had dense and convex marks in its surface, and was battered with burns and bullet marks. Rusted chains and padlocks bolted it shut, and tendrils of purple energy wreathed around it, as if to warn people. From a nearby door emerged a man. He was slender and walked gracefully, and was dressed in a glossy, lavish pinstripe suit. He smoked a brown cigar, which sent plumes of smoke floating. "Everything okay, Lithian?" he questioned, striding toward the 3. "Yes, Mr. Alessio. I found these trespassers in 7A. Thought I'd take them to a lower level." Good. I hope they don't disturb the new prisoner, though. He's acting a bit unstable, erratic, if you will. I hope they don't cause any trouble. As newly appointed head of defence here, I'd like to keep this place monitored constantly, especially with my predecessor's murder just a few days ago." He glanced to the doctor, before turning on his heel and striding inside what the doctor presumed was his office. They arrived at a pair of empty cells. Both had sleek white walls and simple white lighting above them. "In you go, then." Lithian gestured to the cells, and the doctor and Turlough took a glance at each other before stepping in. With a whir, blue shields descended upon them both. The pair were trapped. "Turlough," called the doctor. He'd only been in his cell for a few minutes, but the doctor was panicking. Computers were embedded into the walls, and he'd lost his sonic, so he was truly trapped. Biting his fingernails anxiously, he paced around the room, searching for a structural weak point by rapping his fingers upon the walls. "Turlough," he raised his voice. "Can you hear me?" The doctor pounded on the wall between their cells. "Yes, Doctor, I can," the voice sounded from across the wall. While extremely muffled, it was definitely Turlough. "Have you any ideas as to how we can escape?" "Unfortunately not, Turlough, but I do have some good news. And some bad news, but let's do the good news first. Remember that mineral that's being mined up there? Well, if I'm not mistaken, that mineral is endolite, an alloy consisting of teleside iodine dilithium, and most importantly, artronium." "Really?" Turlough seemed positively thrilled that he had a chance of at least getting away from Critios. "I think so." "What's the bad news?" "Well, the Alessio chap we saw, I know who he is. I believe him to be a Time Lord from Gallifrey's far future known as the Elaborator." "I'm assuming he's one of the bad ones then, like the Master and the Rani?" "Yes, he is. During the Final War, a huge war that took place toward the end of the universe, between the Time Lords and the Daleks, the Elaborator experimented on hundreds of Time Lords, trying to give them enhanced abilities to defeat the Daleks. Most died, but one survived. Poor guy went rogue and destroyed Gallifrey, both the Time Lords and the Daleks. Lord President Rassilon banished him to a prison somewhere in the universe." "Well, that's quite a lot to take in, Doctor. The Time Lord, the one who went rogue, which one was it? The Master?" The Doctor winced as if avoiding the question. "When the Time Lord went rogue, he called himself the Minister of War. It's slightly confusing to understand, but basically, he escaped from the prison he was sent to, and he hunted me down, in order to ensure his timeline never happened. Thankfully, a few hundred years ago, when I was in my last phase, I managed to kill him." "I'm confused, Doctor. Why would killing you prevent him from happening?" "Because I am the Minister of War, 103 incarnations earlier." "The Minister of War is your future self? You become him?" "I'm afraid so, Turlough. Then again, it's not a fixed point in time. It can be changed." "Okay then." The pair remained in silence before Turlough began to speak again. "Why would he want to kill you? Wouldn't that cause him to never exist? Why would he want that?" "While he is dangerous, rogue and unstoppable, the Minister of War is still the Doctor. Inside he's a raging mess, conflicted and distraught, constantly in agony. If he kills me, he has ended a whole lot of suffering, for both me, him, and the entire universe." Turlough's eyes widened. His heart pounded more frequently, and sweat began forming all over him. He'd had a realization. "Doctor?" Turlough asked. "I've got some more bad news. It's not definite, but it makes sense." "What is it, Turlough?" "So, you said the elaborator was here?" "Yes," the doctor replied apprehensively. "Well, and Rassilon sent the minister to a prison somewhere in the universe. And the TARDIS wouldn't tell us where we were. And that door, the door at the end of the corridor, who do you think it is?" "The minister," shouted the doctor. "He's here!" Well, you look at that, the Minister of War showed up again. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that chapter, everyone. It was so fun to write and even more fun to record. So yeah, again, please do leave a like if you enjoy this. I really do appreciate it. Not even a subscribe, just a simple like button, would make my day, so please do. And please do comment as well with your opinions on this chapter. I'd love to hear your opinions, whether it be positive feedback or constructive criticism. I don't really mind as long as it's not rude. So yeah, again, thank you for watching, and Chapter 3 will be next Saturday. However, I am doing a couple of mysterious videos in between, including one where I rewrite the Series 7 story, Nightmare in Silver. So I hope you look forward to that. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.